Hi, does your makeup need to change from one season to the next? My name is Tricia and I'm founder of Look Fabulous Forever, and we have makeup specifically formulated for older faces, eyes and lips. Today we're going to do a lovely makeover on Josephine, who writes a fantastic style blog showing you how to adapt your makeup when you move from summer into autumn. I do hope you enjoy it. So we're going to start Josephine's makeover with a face primer, and the reason for applying a face primer is really to smooth the skin in preparation for the foundation that we're then going to put on top. Face primer is brilliant when you're older. It does a couple of things. It fills in any fine lines or open pores that you've got, and it makes your makeup last literally from the time that you put it on first thing until the time that you take it off before you go to bed. So it really has these dual functions which are both essential. Having applied the primer, Amanda is now going to put on the foundation, or we call it a base. And again, the reason for doing this is that it unifies the skin tone. It covers up small blemishes that you might have, and it just helps to make the skin look better. Obviously what you're aiming to do with this is not to have anything that looks too heavy. I think the worst effect on an older skin is something that looks as though it's sort of dry and cakey. Our foundation is lovely because it feels very light on the skin and it covers brilliantly but never looks heavy. It's quite a difficult trick to pull off, but our base really does that. In terms of colour, Josephine tells me that she has been using the base 02 through the summer as well. And because she protects her face from the sun. What I do myself in the summertime is I use the same base colour, but I add in a tint in a slightly darker shade. And that means that I don't have to buy two different colours. And it just works that if my face gets a bit of extra sun, then I can darken it down slightly. So the next thing that Amanda is doing here is she's applying some concealer. This is the same colour as the base. This is our Conceal 02, and you can see that she's using a small brush and just dabbing it onto the area and then patting it in using the warmth of her finger. And what you're doing with concealer is you're just giving a bit of extra coverage to those areas that need it. If you have any patches, blemishes, perhaps thread veins, anything like that, then a brilliant way to deal with that problem is using a concealer. Another area that some older women have which needs to be camouflaged is a tendency towards a blueness either side of the nose, and it can create quite a hollow-eyed look if you're not careful. So what Amanda is doing with the concealer, she's also putting a little bit onto that inner eye area. Again, using the brush to push it into place and being able to position it quite precisely in that way. So the next thing that we're going to apply to Josephine is our Fabulous Eye Prime. The purpose of putting an eye primer on is, again, it's twofold. One is to cover any discoloration that there is on the lids. You'll see that Josephine's eyelids are slightly browny, which is not uncommon, and it's a brilliant way to neutralise that colour so that anything that you put on top, any eyeshadows that you put on top, are a truer colour as a result. The second thing that the eye primer does is it holds the eye makeup in place for longer. So it forms the most wonderful smoothing surface onto which to apply your eye makeup. You can see that what Amanda's doing it, she's applying it with our brush 4, which is a perfect shape for this, and it allows you to put it on smoothly and make sure that you've got exactly the right amount. You don't need too much. It's not a product that you need a lot of, but it really does a fantastic job of creating a much smoother base for your eye makeup. So the next product we're going to apply is the Fabulous Light. Highlighters are wonderful on an older face. They really make it look luminous and just more beautiful. And what we're doing is we're applying it, as you can see, in the under eye and onto the top of the cheekbones, that area. And this will look really pretty when we finish the makeover. It will catch the light and look sort of dewy and fresh. You can see that the way that Amanda is applying it, she's used the brush to put some product on the back of her hand, and then she's just using our brush 4 to apply it onto the skin. Another place that you can put highlighter is on the brow bone. And again, the purpose for doing that is to catch the light onto your brow bone, and by putting it onto these two bones, you're creating shape in the face. It's a contouring tool. And another tip, if you want to, put a very fine stripe down the middle of the nose, which sounds a bit counterintuitive, but actually works brilliantly to make the nose look smaller. So what we're going to apply now is some blusher. And again, if you start to look a bit paler and more wan as we go into autumn, blusher is a wonderful way to brighten up your face. And it's just a beautiful pop of colour. So Josephine is cool tone, so we're applying Rosy Glow. And you can see where Amanda has applied that. So we're talking about onto the cheeks, below the cheekbones, and taking it high towards and level with the eye. Don't be afraid of applying this. What happens is you can put it on with your fingers. It's a cream to powder formulation. And then when you've done that, you can blend it with a brush, and it's perfect because you can then achieve a very nice finish with it. Also, if you feel that you've put too much on, you can just take the brush and take a little bit off. So it gives you lots of control. So Josephine's looking really pretty now with her face makeup, and what we're going to do next is go on and do her eyes. Amanda has actually completed the eye makeup on one eye and is now moving to the other, and she's starting with Cappuccino eye shade. Remember, we put the eye primer on first to ensure that we can get a nice finish with the eyeshadow, and she's starting with Cappuccino and then moving on to a slightly darker colour, which is Taupe. The 3 colour eye shades that we're using on Josephine's eyes are really lovely autumnal shades. So we've got Cappuccino, which is a pale coffee colour, the Taupe, which is a lovely sort of grey-brown, which you can see that Amanda is applying above into the socket line and just building the colour up like that, and using another brush just to make sure that it's nicely blended. The way that we use eyeshadow is really to create colour, of course, but also shape to the eye to make the eyes look bigger and better. What Amanda's now going to do is she's going to give some definition to the lash line, and she's going to do this with a couple of colours, the same ones that we're using on the lid. So she's using the Taupe, and she's just putting some of it with a small wedge brush underneath the eye. The final colour that Amanda's going to apply to, again to the lash line on the upper lashes, is Aubergine. And Aubergine is a wonderful, deep, purpley colour. And it's just so pretty. and it will bring out the colour of Josephine's eyes absolutely perfectly. We use powder shadows onto the lash line instead of using things like gels or pencils. The thing about your eyelids when you're older, if they're slightly crepey and dry and you try and draw a really sharp black line, it's quite difficult to make it clean and crisp. Using a shadow, you're obviously going to create a slightly smudgier effect, but it's much, much more flattering and very, very pretty. And you can see that what Amanda has done there is just enough to make Josephine's eyelashes look thicker. Again, going back to the clean blending brush, just to make sure that all those shadows are perfectly blended. Now Amanda's going to curl Josephine's eyelashes. This is a fantastic way, if your eyelashes are a bit sparse, to make them look better. And using a pumping motion to make sure that the eyelashes are beautifully curled before applying the mascara. Now some lovely mascara, and wiggle, wiggle up onto your curled lashes to get the best possible effect. I always think the mascara is a brilliant moment when you're applying your eye makeup. And put some mascara on your bottom lashes. Always makes your eyes look bigger and more open if you've got mascara on the top and bottom lashes. And the last thing we're going to do is to apply a fabulous brow shape. And Amanda's got the spoolie brush, which she's just going to use first to groom the brows. And then the brow shape is like a liquid paint, and it's very clever. It creates, as if you're a portrait painter really, the illusion of individual brow hair, and it creates a really, really realistic effect. So using light feathery strokes and just making sure that you're creating a perfect arc, which is how natural eyebrows look. And you can see that you can fill in any gaps that you've got and just give better definition, more colour and a better shape. And then if you want to, you can just go back with the spoolie brush, make sure that they're exactly the right colour and as perfectly groomed as possible. And finally the lips. So we're going to put a lip primer on. Remember, this is our third primer. We did a face prime, an eye prime and the lip prime. And the purpose of the lip prime is to stop feathering and bleeding of the lip colour into the outer edges. So you can see what Amanda's doing with this. I actually apply it direct from the applicator, but she's applying it with a brush to ensure that it's just on the very edges of the lips. This is not a balm, and it's not about helping your lipstick to last longer. It's about making sure that it doesn't feather or bleed. So we're going to finish Josephine's look with a beautiful shade for autumn, which is Soft Plum. I have to say that in the summertime, I've been wearing fuchsia, and Josephine tells me that she's been wearing Pink Pop, both of which are lovely colours if you're in bright Mediterranean type of light. But now we're back into much more gloomy, overcast autumnal skies. So both Josephine and I will be moving to a colour like Soft Plum or possibly Sweet Pea, which is, as I said, much more of a berry type shade, and it's absolutely perfect for this kind of season. It also works brilliantly with the colour blush that we've put on, which is Rosy Glow, and the Aubergine eye shade. So these three colours, all of which are perfect with a cool tone skin, are going to complement each other for the final effect. And there we have it. So Josephine looks fantastic, the makeup looks lovely, and I think it's brought her whole face to life, and now she's ready for those autumnal clothes and for the new season's look.